The NFL is back, and FanDuel's got everything you need to play your game, from same-game parlays to live betting. Right now, new customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. 21 plus in present and select states. 18 plus in Kentucky and Wyoming. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
We know what you're thinking. I just want jeans that look great, feel great, and hold up. At Ariat, we've been doing some thinking too. We're thinking about fit that moves with you, no matter where the ride takes you. Durability that stands up to hard work, harder play, and comfort that never quits. And all this thinking, it's really just about more living. Now, it's time to stop thinking and start shopping. Find your Ariat jeans at Ariat.com or a retailer near you.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast with George Edwards.
Hello and welcome back to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast and our match report following Forest's 2-2 draw with Manchester United. It was Casemiro who opened the scoring after 34 minutes, but in the second half, Forest scored 2 quick-fire goals through Nicola Savona and Morgan Gibbs-White to give them a second-half lead, but it wasn't enough to hold out the victory as Amad Diallo's 81st minute equaliser ensured the points were shared. Probably fair on the balance of the game. I'm your host, George, and I'm joined by Baz, who were both at the game. And Baz, I mean, the game ebbed and flowed. I don't think either side took control of the game at any point or got into any sort of dominant rhythm. So, and I think both teams really going forwards didn't look the best, defensively maybe solid, which after a 2-2 draw, maybe you're thinking that's not the case. But we'll come to the decisions and all that stuff later on. But do you think a point was valid by the end?
I thought it was fair enough. When we got back into it, I thought we're going to need at least one more goal. If we want to hold on to this, just because we are who we are now. And so I thought probably at the end of it, it is kind of fair, but there's always a little bit of injustice, which I'm sure we'll get onto very soon.
Yeah, and how important was, obviously the first half was okay, but then the second half, how important was it that we just came out straight away, got on the front foot? That's how I actually wanted us to approach the game, because I mentioned to you off recording, I didn't buy into the fact that United were a team to be feared. I think they're very fickle and that they've had a few wins because they've got some good individual players, but you can certainly get at them. And I wish Forest had done that from the start. But how important was it that the second half that they just grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and got right back in there? Because if it festered, then you don't know how the game would have came out.
Oh, absolutely. I thought that little period, the first maybe 20 minutes of the second half, was probably this what I wanted to see from Forest, what I've wanted pretty much all season, because there was commitment and there was energy and there was running, and we've not really seen that enough. Well, barely at all season. So that was really nice to see, and I kind of knew that Manchester United get back into it in the second half, and we'd end up struggling in some way, but for that 20 minutes or whatever, it's a sign of what we're capable of. We just need to do it for 95 minutes now.
And it's the identity, I think, that's creeping back, because you look at our starting 11 and it's, today only 2, but really only one sort of player different from last season. Yet at times we've looked a completely different side. And obviously being between managers and between stars hasn't helped that. But it is good to see, even that if it's only in stages, that Forest are getting back to a sort of solid mindset that they had last season. So in terms of the team news, it was Sean Dyche's same team for 3 games in a row. No changes since he's been the Forest manager. So Matt Sells played in goal. We had a back 4 of Nico Williams, Nikola Milenkovic, Murillo and Savona. Anderson, Lewis and Gibbs-White in midfield, with Ndoye and Hudson-Odoi flanking Jesus. As I mentioned, consistency was a big part of Forest's success last season, and the fact that particularly by the end, the 11 seemed to pick itself, maybe one change in midfield, but it felt pretty set in stone. We expect changes on Thursday, but how important is it to have that settled side going forward, Baz?
I think not least Dyche had to do it, because you could see that the team were so disconnected by the end of Angie's reign. You need to keep a little bit of consistency in the selection, just so that the players can build their little partnerships and get to know each other again. And so I think it is necessary. But yeah, I do also think the Thursday with Sunday is shaping up to be a very, very important game. And with Thursday just before it as well, then yeah, so he's going to have to start making some rotations. But you can sort of see that actually the little bonds between the players is starting to get rebuilt. So he's probably safe to do that now rather than just the scattergun approach that Ange had.
And that was never going to be a healthy approach, was it? Changing his tactics, changing the players, and just throwing things and hoping something stuck. And nothing did in the end, but at least he's not here anymore. The first bit of the game I want to talk about before we got into the chances, though, is the Luis substitution. I mean, it's maybe the third time he's gone off injured or something like that in a red shirt. And for me, he's a really brilliant player. On the ball, he's very technical. Set pieces, he offers us something else. But a little bit of me wonders whether we actually are ready for a player like that alongside Anderson. They're two very similar players. And I looked at the goal we conceded against Bournemouth in the second half, the second goal. And Luis sort of loses it and then stands in midfield and watches as Bournemouth counter-attack, not getting back. And he did a very similar thing against United. I think it was the move where he got injured, but he lost the ball and then had no sort of drive to get back. And I'm just thinking, when Yates comes on and there's always that drive to get back. And for me, one of the biggest misses from last season has been Dominguez, because he never sort of was a 9 out of 10, but he always found a way to be in the side. I had luck, he made 34 appearances last season. And just when you thought, is Dominguez going to be selected? He always was, and he always had an impact. And I know he sort of was injured at the start of the season, and then his stupid antics against Sunderland didn't help it. But I feel we missed that type of Dominguez player, and whether we're ready for sort of two Andersons in the Anderson and Luis next to each other. So what did you think of Luis going off? And if he's out long term, how much of a miss do you think it will be?
I can remember it was after the season started, but quite near the beginning, seeing something that Juve had apparently said that he's got some sort of long-term injury. And that's why he basically can't manage more than 60 minutes and keeps coming off injured. And so part of me's thinking, have we just been sold a dud?
Yeah.
So I can't remember which player it was. Omar Richards.
Oh, yes.
We signed him without really doing a proper medical. It's like maybe the same thing's happened again.
And Yates coming on, I think that maybe surprised me. But like I say, I'd have preferred Dominguez to be coming on, but he wasn't on the bench. And Yates did get better second half. But were you expecting it to be Sangare, or were you happy with the Yates move?
I'd have thought Sangare would have been more of a like-for-like swap. But Yates is definitely a Sean Dyche type of player, so I can see why he'd go for him. But
absolutely. And the second he sort of went to warm up at that moment, did he sort of just G'd everybody up a little bit? And that's the impact he has, isn't it?
I kind of feel bad for Sangare because there have been moments where he's looked like the player we've always wanted him to be, and then suddenly Dyche comes in and he's not going to get the same sort of look in.
No, and like Mitchell on second half, he was fantastic. He was spraying balls around everywhere, but then he comes in at the end and gets megged, and that's the only thing he does. And it's difficult for him. And I feel like he's very unlucky in a red shirt. Just as he gets some consistency, he went away from AFCON, he got injured, and then Nuno left, and it's all a bit weird for him. But in terms of the game, then it was a quite open start to the game. To be fair, I think United had a shot early on, didn't they? And then Ndoye had one from distance, and once Yates got on the pitch, I felt like it's got settled a little bit. The one concern I had was how, and we saw it against Bournemouth, and we've seen it against the goal we conceded away at Newcastle as well, how 3 or 4 passes, because I think Forest are between styles, and the press doesn't seem convincing to me. So half the team press, the other team hold back, and it takes about 3 passes, and suddenly our whole midfield is bypassed. And that happened on a couple of occasions, but I think United, with their sort of misjointed front line, didn't capitalise on it. But that's the one worrying side I had from the start. But apart from that, we look reasonably positive and solid and attacking going forward. So how did you make of how Forest started the game?
Yeah, I thought we did all right. What I did think was when Ruben Amorim came in last season, everyone was banging on about how he's got these 2 midfielders. Casemiro's old, can't run. And Fernandes isn't a defensive midfielder, so they kept on getting overrun in the middle of the park. And what they're doing is they managed to completely clog up the midfield. And so it kind of ruined it as a game in some ways, because every time we tried to pass the ball around, we just couldn't get through. Apart from getting a little bit of space on the wings, I guess that's what he was doing. Was their wide players were coming in, and then Mbumo and Cunha were taking turns to drop into midfield as well, and it made it really, really congested in the middle of the pitch, and it's more a spoiler sort of technique, and I was kind of surprised at that. But I guess that's kind of why they've been improving, because they looked utterly brittle last season, whereas they were managing to contain us. We were probably the better side without, and we got a few shots away and stuff, but they looked more likely to score because they contained us in that way. And it turns out they did score.
Yeah, and when they did break forward, their attacks felt more dangerous than ours, didn't they? So you linked us in nicely there, Baz. Let's get on to the goal then. I think it was maybe slightly against the run of play, 34 minutes. So a ball comes in, Savona does really well to get up and head it away, and then chases it to the byline. He sort of miscontrols it, but it looks like, I'm high in the Brian Clough stand, so I'm not got the best view of it at all, but looks like he keeps it in. The referee, obviously, all the linesmen between them gave a corner, and you can tell, I think, by the crowd reaction.
Well, yeah, obviously that bit of the Trent end went absolutely crazy, and all the players around there did as well. So
yeah, and you're going to appeal for anything, and that's what spectators do. But there was a genuine sense there that I felt that is the wrong decision. I don't know about what view you had, Baz.
No, so I'm sort of a Brian Clough lower as well, so near the halfway line. So when I was watching it in real time, my instinct was, it looks like it's taking it out, but I could be wrong because it's the halfway up the pitch. And then, you see the reaction from the Trent end, because the roar wasn't like an appeal. It was, this is unjust, and that's kind of, you could tell the difference from the reaction from the crowd. And then at half time, I went to one of the screens on the concourse and just sat there and waited until they put it took ages for them to put the replay on, and then I was like, right, I'm incensed absolutely again. So so it wasn't a corner, but Casemiro was not marked, so what can you say at that?
Yeah, so the ball comes in from Fernandes. Casemiro gets up and heads it. And it's a repeated theme, and I'm getting absolutely sick of the excuses, to be honest. It's not the first time it's happened. I think back to Sunderland, Midtjylland, Bournemouth last week, and this game. That's 4 games that a refereeing call has been given against us that we don't agree with. And then we've switched off, we're appealing, we're not focused, and we concede from a set piece. And it's getting unacceptable now. It's a repeated theme. And Sean Dyche came out after the game, and he really infuriated me. And I wasn't actually pleased with Colin Frey as well. I love Colin Frey, but he framed the question about the set piece. And you've got to play the game. Forest aren't playing the game from these set pieces. They're more focused about what the referee's not done, what the crowd are doing, than getting organised and setting up. And even in the Porto game, Porto obviously didn't score, but every time they had a corner, we just weren't switched on. And it's this not switching on that is just getting completely ridiculous now. It feels like the first season or the second season when we're in the Premier League between Cooper and Nuno, where every ball into the box just felt like an absolute calamity. And it's such a shame, because from open play, it was a very decent, tight game, not much in it. Forest didn't give much away at all. Murillo pocketed and Blamo. Yet we give away a set piece that is or isn't, and we just don't deal with it. Free header at the back post. The same thing happens for the set piece goal we can see that we're going to come on to later, and it's just getting completely ridiculous. So Forest have to sort this out, because it's an absolute car crash, Baz. So were you more incensed? I think I've made it clear I'm more incensed about the set piece than the awarding of it. But which one are you more incensed about?
So I think I said that the other day. I think Ange Postecoglou, in many ways, was extremely unlucky, because we've had this run of decisions going against us, and you could see why he was getting frustrated about it, and it's cost us goals, and it's cost us matches, and it's cost him his job ultimately, because the confidence drained out of the side. They didn't believe in him because we weren't getting these things happening for us. Sean Dyche has come in, and he's obviously incensed, because I guess it's kind of new to him to be in this. So we've had the entire season of it building up, but we've got to sort out. you got to play to the whistle and play the actual game, and that's the problem. And I'm sure, considering Dyche has built his reputation on being hard to beat and solid and working hard, I'm sure he will be able to sort it out. But he's got to do it quickly. And what we probably need is Mr. Marinakis to fire off a few tweets to direct the attention away from the players.
Yeah, well, Ange Postecoglou did the best he could to direct the attention away from the players, and that didn't seem to help. So I think they've just got to get on that training pitch and head everything away that comes into the box, because it's a sort of mismatch between zonal marking and individual marking, and it's just an absolute calamity. It needs to be sorted out, and it was a shame because United sprung into life for 5 minutes after that, but Forest ended the half better. Hudson got forward off the left side and flashed the ball across goal, didn't he? And I think Jesus sliding in there just missed it. It was a rigid half that Forest lacked substance in. But how frustrating was it that so much good has happened in that half? There's not much between it yet. It's a blooming set piece that's undone us again. Yeah,
absolutely. And we're going off at half time, booing the referee and chanting about him. And actually, Dyche said that in his interview as well. It's like, I don't want to be talking about the referees. I want to be talking about my team. And it's just a shame. It's stupid that we can't get control of the game. Like at the simplest things, it's not like it's a surprise what happens at a corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and once it's given, you've got to rise to the adversity and play the game, like you mentioned. We're going to take a break, and at half-time, it was Nottingham Forest 0, Manchester United 1.
The 1865 Match Report.
At Lowe's, this Veterans Day and every day, verified military members, veterans, and their spouses get automatic silver status in My Lowe's Rewards with free standard shipping, plus 10% off eligible purchases with no annual limit. It's one way we honor and give back to those who have served and still do. Learn more now at lowes.com/military. 10% discount can't be combined with another offer. Exclusions, terms, and conditions apply. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the 1865 match report for Forest's 2-2 draw with Manchester United. Now, I'm not sure if it was a game of two halves because the performance sort of was mirrored across both halves, but the start to the second half was something pretty remarkable. And whatever Sean Dyche said to the players at halftime, I think is worth broadcasting maybe, because Forest came out flit and firing. They got forward and scored within 3 minutes. Anderson sprayed it out wide to Ndoye on the right side, and Ndoye can't beat a man, can he? So luckily Ryan Yates went to support him. Came free of Cunha, touched it to the side and sprayed a lovely ball in. And then it's Morgan Gibbs-White on Amad Diallo. And that's the issue, I suppose, with playing wing-backs, because Amad Diallo's marking Gibbs-White. And we know that Gibbs-White, if he's free in the box, has got a decent header on him. And he rises high, powers it into the bottom far corner. He loves the goal against Man United, doesn't he, Gibbs-White? I think that's 3, is it, or 4 against them that he scored since they've been promoted. And, our first Premier League goal since Burnley. I think our first Premier League home goal since the opening day of the season. It might be on there, but I'm pretty sure it is.
I think that's true, yeah.
How much of a relief was it finally to the back of the net?
There was again, to hark on about that Australian man. There was a thing at half time, every single game would be like, give it 5 minutes and we'll concede. And so it was so nice to have it go the other way round and actually come out. I feel like the players had been inspired by the half-time team talk. Yeah. And it's not even like it was a tactical change or anything. It was just they were running harder and went at it and wanted it more. And it got us 2 goals. I mean, obviously, the Gibbs-White one, that was the thing that opened the door. And yeah, it was a fantastic cross from Yatesy as well. It was really good to see. But it was the fact that we didn't just rest on it, and then thought, right, let's do this again. And that's what we need to see more of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we opened the door and then we ran through it, and it was a shame that we didn't sort of keep pushing them and get 3 and 4, because as I mentioned, I think United are very fragile and you can get at them. But it almost, I remember Villa at home last season when we 1-0 down. I know that happened late on, But you almost felt like once we got one and that surge of momentum and positivity was back, and it feels like that spirit was back from Forest. So as you mentioned, it's very nice that after a decent first half where we've been pegged back, we can really rise to the occasion. And it's 2 minutes later that we took the lead, and Doyle recycled a corner. He sort of ball, he hesitated, it was deflected into the box, looped up. Igor Jesus, who hadn't won a header in the last 30 years, maybe, nodded down, and then sneaking around the back was Savona. And I was thinking, what the hell is he doing up there? Because he doesn't even go up for every corner, but Savona's in there to prod home. And yeah, that's the most I've celebrated a goal in a very long time. Because like I mentioned, it just felt different to just scoring and taking the lead. It felt like Forest had returned. And obviously we didn't actually hold out to win the game, but it was a real positive moment. And it's also, I was thinking, it's two very un-Forest goals, really. You almost associate, I mean, we've not scored much this season, but you think back to last season, it's sort of spearheading, counter-attack, slick movement, one-touch football, or directly from a set piece. Whereas Forest, they just scored from their spirit, Baz, and that was the best thing to see, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. The Savona goal, I had no idea what was going on. I was looking over and all I could see was like this wall of players, and then suddenly the ball had gone into the net because he'd sort of slipped around behind the wall. And so I couldn't even see him. So that was kind of a nice surprise in a way. But yeah, it was that thing of like, yeah, we've got one. I remember in Cooper's first season when he took over from Chris Hughton, there was that game at Bristol City away, and we were losing and then won in injury time because what's his name? Lyle Taylor. And after he scored the first one, he just picked it up and ran back to the centre circle because he was like, let's get the other.
And that was in stoppage time. And when you think at our point, after we played poorly, we'll take that.
Yeah. And it was it felt a little bit like that. It's just like, actually, yeah, a draw's not enough here. Let's go and win this. And to be fair as well, the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes after that, we really did try and get that third goal. I think Hudson-Odoi had a shot go wide. I think Jesus had another one as well.
Yeah.
And we just ran at them. And again, it's that same thing. It's not a tactical thing. It's not that they made mistakes. It's just we decided we wanted it. And that's what's been missing in some ways. It's like that actual desire and commitment and fight. And that was really, really good to see. And I knew that there'd be a point where it'd start to peter out because
that's what happened.
Yeah. And I knew that if we hadn't got the third goal by the time it had petered out, then yeah, we'd probably end up with a draw at best. But for that 15, 20 minutes, that's what I really wanted to see. And I was very happy to see it.
And there was momentum, not just across the pitch, but around the stadium, wasn't there, in terms of even when we took the lead in any of Angie's games, I felt like everybody just believed again and was so invested with what they're seeing and really got behind it. There's a couple of players I want to talk about. Firstly, Jesus, whose performance has improved in the second half. I mean, as I mentioned, Jesus in the first half, and we'll go more direct under Dyche, and I think if the option is there and there's nowhere to go out, then yeah, go long. First half, he was winning absolutely nothing. But second half, he decided to be more of an outlet. I think he stood on Lenny Yoro rather than Luke Shaw. And he started to win more balls and be more of an outlet and come and get the ball. So he really impressed me. And I think actually thinking to Thursday, he can't play because he's suspended. Wood, I think, is, touch and go and it probably wouldn't start him. And Awoniyi is not in the squad, I don't think, for the Europa League. So it looks like Callum Wendo or maybe a false nine or something. But with Jesus' increase in performance there, how much of an issue is that going forward into Thursday?
It is. I think he's a very, very talented player, but I can remember reading that he's not like an out-and-out goal scorer. And he was like averaging like 9 or 10 a game or something. And
no, not 10 a game. We'll take that.
No, yeah,
a season.
Yeah. A season. But he's obviously got something about him. For us, he's obviously got the finishing, and it's almost like I'd read that he plays more as a number 10 sort of thing. And he doesn't seem to have that. He's playing up on the shoulder. He's running around a lot. Yeah, maybe he's not as great in the air and at picking up the direct balls, but he does cause some problems. And I think when he did come off later on, it felt like the right time to take him off and put T on. But but that's not a bad reflection on him. It was just we needed to change it up a little bit, and I'm quite impressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing him the rest of the season because I think he does offer us something.
Yeah, absolutely. Another couple of players I want to talk about. Savona obviously getting the goal, and as I mentioned, quite an unusual goal scorer. But to say the guy isn't a natural fullback, I think he sort of played right of a three last season. I think every game I see him, I'm just inspired by him, and he brings more positivity. And obviously, Oleraina looks like he's on the brink of coming back, but you look at him and compared to the other guy who was playing with Zinchenko, who filled everybody with doubt, I think he just seems like a steady pair of hands. And I think that's a deserved goal from the performances that he's been putting out. And then Murillo as well, the way that he just marshalled Wemo out of the game. You know, he just followed him everywhere completely, didn't get anywhere near the ball. And I think sometimes it left us a bit open, but United didn't have the fluidity or the sort of break from midfield to counter that. So how important were those two as well to Forest performance?
It was a defence. So Murillo on Buemo and Milenkovic on Sesko. And like every time I've seen Manchester United play this season, I've not really understood why they spent so much on Sesko. But our two defenders did a fantastic job against them. And Savona, I had him down as like my man of the match because I thought he just defensively, you can tell that he's a defender, but he was doing that. It was like when Zach Abbott played in the FA Cup game last season, and suddenly he's right up the other end of the pitch and doing all the right things, and you're thinking that's not his position. How's he actually know to do that? And it was good to see. I think considering he's still is he 19 or something,
Yeah,
and so he's like in a foreign country. He's only been here for a few weeks. I think we've got the makings of a very, very good player there.
Yeah, it's a really good find, isn't it? And finally, I want to talk about the midfield because I thought, as you mentioned, it was very stifled in the first half. But second half, I thought Anderson and Yates started to shine. First half, Yates, I think, was a bit negative, a bit disappointing. But second half, he was a lot better, and his sort of one-touch passes really got us forward. And I think Bruno Fernandes must hate the sight of him because he did the same job on him last season, and he just comes on, barges him off the ball, winds him up, and I just absolutely love seeing Fernandes crying like a little rat. And then Anderson as well. I mean, United have had interest in Anderson, and he just completely dominated in that midfield. So a word on those two, Baz.
Yeah, well, so Yates obviously Yates and Fernandes. Yeah, as you say, it's the number of times Fernandes was just face down on the grass, and every time we just had to laugh, which is brilliant. And then Anderson. So the game, Bournemouth game, I thought he looked overwhelmed in that game, and I was thinking maybe he's played too much and whatever. But especially in the second half here, he was everywhere, and it was the Anderson that the form that got him into the England side, and it was great to see. Really, really good to see.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth was just a game that everybody struggled at because they were just, I mean, I think it's the smallest pitch in the Premier League and they're just on you like a rash. And he was the only sort of player that could keep up with how they were playing, but everybody around him was two steps behind. So it was a real struggle for him. But you mentioned the chances Forest had there. I think Fernandes hit the post from 30 yards out. That was the first chance after the goal. And then Casemiro, I think, put the one wide. And then, Hudson-Odoi had one dribbling in from the left and shooting just wide. And then he set one up for Jesus at the back post who headed wide. And that was really it in terms of goal scoring opportunities until the United equaliser. Forest also made a sub with Taiwo coming on for Jesus, 78 minutes, which made sense for me. But I also wondered whether Sean Dyche could have maybe made a change out wide. Hutchinson looked promising against Bournemouth. He didn't sort of do anything in terms of a final delivery, but everybody was poor against Bournemouth. And I thought you at least knew he was there, which Hudson-Odoi and Endoi really struggled against Bournemouth. And the fact that Bakwa is injured, Hutchinson's not in the Europa League squad, I think Hudson-Odoi and Endoi will probably be playing on Thursday, and there's nobody like for like to come on for them. So were you surprised that there was no change out wide, Baz, particularly because I thought Endoi was flagging by the end?
Yeah, I wanted to see. I like the look of Hutchinson. I think give him a run of games and he can be a very important player for us. But yeah, so I would have liked to have seen him come on. I did think it was the right idea to put Taiwo on because you know what you're going to get with Taiwo and with their defence, as you say, being that little bit brittle, having him batter his way through and get the ball on his shin and knock it in was always a possibility. But So and I also liked the fact that when not only were we singing his name when he came on, but his first like header and challenge got a massive cheer from everyone around me, which is even though he's had his struggles, he's still obviously immensely popular with us, which is lovely to see.
Yeah, definitely. But then 3 minutes after Tyler came on, Forest chucked the lead away once again from a set piece. It's a back post header once again that Forest lost. It obviously didn't come directly from that, but because the header comes into the middle, Forest have to clear it and just scramble it away. And then it comes to Amad Diallo on his left foot. Couldn't have really set up any better for him, but not to take away from the finish because it was a brilliant finish into the corner, through everybody, and United were back level. And I mean, there wasn't as much deflation as you might think because of how long Forest had the lead and the fact that we've not had a victory for a while. I thought the stadium did quite well, but it was almost, I don't know, I felt like there was an inevitability about it that nobody was surprised about what they were seeing, Baz.
Yeah. It was that's what I said earlier about if we'd capitalised on it and got that third goal, and then they'd pulled it back, then it would have been really deflating. But there's a predictability to us. We still have that soft underbelly, and as soon as they get a corner, you know that we're going to we're more likely than not to concede, and we're not going to be able to hold on to a single goal lead like we used to. Not yet, anyway.
So we had 15 minutes to hold out if you include stoppage time from there, and it looked a bit nervy at times. Forest did get forward with Taiwo a little bit, but in the end they had to be saved by a combination. I don't know who it was in the end, but it was Nico and Murillo on the line saving Forest from, I think it was deep into stoppage time. Diallo got another shot once again from a set piece. So that's three really big chances too that obviously were taken and one off the line that Forest conceded from set plays. And that's a real issue that I'm sick of seeing, but it's a repeated sign. But Forest now, as I mentioned, the result I think was fair play. I don't think either side showed that much quality to win the game, and it was certainly justified. Forest are now still 18th, 4 points behind Burnley, and they're sort of like a mid-table cluster, all on about sort of 12, 11 points. Forest being where they are, they're almost seeing cut adrift at the minute on 6 points. So does the performance give you optimism that Forest can get themselves out of the current rut that they're in? And I think that has to start with 3 points against Leeds, doesn't it?
Yeah, all it'll take, because it's still relatively early in the season, all it'll take is a decent run, an unbeaten run of 6 or 7 games, and we'll pull ourselves out of it. I'm not worried on that front yet. And the second half performance, the way we came out the blocks, that gives me a lot of hope. If we can do that over 90 minutes, then I still don't think we've not sorted out the defence. I can't see that getting sorted out. But if we can play with that level of energy and commitment, then we're going to get more points than we throw away. Mm-hmm. So that it's just a matter of getting that run together. Once that's in place, then we'll be fine.
Yeah, the sort of complacency worries me because I think there's been a sense that Forest will be all right. They finished 7th last year. They've got good players. They're too good to go down. But I think you've got to accept where you are and play what's in front of you, because if you carry on like that, you just get further and further cut adrift. So Sturm Graz and Leeds next. I think Leeds probably for everybody is the priority because the Premier League has to be the priority now. And Forest look in a decent position now in the Europa League, and one result can be huge there. So I think we're expecting a lot of changes for Sturm Graz, and then the sort of strong Premier League lineup that Dyche has established back at Leeds on Sunday. Out of those games, how many points are you expecting, Baz?
So ideally, we should get 6. Sturm Graz, from I don't know a great deal about them, but from what I've seen of their results and stuff, the little bits I've read about them, they shouldn't be much of a threat for us. That sounds a bit complacent, and that's a very dangerous thing to say. But
get replayed on Thursday night.
Yeah, but if we can play to our strengths and put in a performance, then we should be good for that one. Maybe, and then Leeds. It's Leeds. They're always going to be horrible to play against, but we need this. We need to start putting this Premier League run together to get us out of there, so we don't get properly cut adrift. And so it's a big game, but it's at home, and they're a big side, so we're going to concede from set pieces, but but at least we can show that we can now score again. So that's a plus.
Yeah, and the huge thing now that it's the City ground looks like it's getting back to the place it was feared sort of in the last few years, and I think Forest's success, wherever they've been successful, has been built on their home form. And thanks for joining me, Baz, and thank you, listener. I'll be in Graz for that game, and I think I'll be reporting with somebody else, but we'll be back with a podcast after that one and the Leeds game, plus the Yatesy Espresso Bar midweek as well. If you want to find anywhere to listen to the podcast or the social media, you can do so by searching the words 1865.football into your search browser. Thank you very much for listening, and come on, you Reds.
You've been listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps other listeners find our content.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.